4 minutes. That is the entire window. On a clear summer morning, an adult stationed on a forest path in the Japanese Highlands watches 4 schoolgirls walk past him. 4 minutes later, 3 of them come back and tell him that the 4th is no longer behind them. She was 10 years old. She was 120 centimeters tall and weighed 20 kilograms. She was wearing a white long-sleeved shirt with pale blue sleeves, pale pink trousers, pale blue trainers, and her hair was tied in 2 places with elastic bands. 17 years later, none of that has changed. Not the description, not the phone number, and not the single hardest fact in this case, that nothing has ever been found. No shoe, no hairband, not one scrap of cloth. Roughly 5,600 investigators have worked this disappearance. The ground has been swept, drained, dug out with heavy machinery, and walked by dogs trained to detect human remains. Every time, the answer comes back the same: nothing at all. This is one of the most thoroughly searched pieces of ground in Japan. Outside Japan, almost nobody has heard of it. Hirugano Kogen is a highland plateau in the north of Gifu Prefecture in central Japan. In winter, it is ski country. In late July, it is the opposite of that. Green, humid, about 20 degrees in the morning, with cottages and tent pitches spread across a site of roughly 150,000 square meters. On the 23rd of July, 2009, about 85 fifth graders arrived there from Tokoname Nishi Elementary School in Aichi Prefecture on the coast south of Nagoya. They came with their teachers for a 2-night, 3-day residential camp. If you did not grow up in Japan, this needs explaining because it is not a school trip in the ordinary sense. It is called yagai gakushu, outdoor learning. It is a fixed part of the curriculum run by the school at a site the school has used before. 10-year-olds cook outdoors, sleep in bunks, and are handed small responsibilities in groups. And on the second night, almost always, there is a kimodameshi, a test of courage. The children walk a marked path through the woods in the dark, in 2s and 3s, and frighten each other. It is a ritual, and it is meant to be harmless. Because it happens after dark, the route is normally checked in daylight first. Someone walks the course, sees where the roots are, sees where the turns come. In this case, that job was given in part to the children themselves. That is why 4 girls were out on a forest path at 7:30 in the morning. The course was a loop, roughly 2 kilometers, mostly surfaced. Adults were posted along it, one at a bend partway round, one at the turnaround point. The 4 girls set off from the plaza in front of the management office somewhere between 7:30 and 7:20. They walked in a line. The girl at the back was trailing, maybe 20 meters behind the other 3. She was small for her age and not physically strong, and at school she was used to a little help from her teachers and her classmates. Falling behind on a walk was normal for her, and nobody treated it as a problem. About 500 meters along, the path crosses a small bridge over a shallow stream and then bends. The adult posted at that bend saw all 4 of them go past. He spoke to the girl at the back. She smiled at him and carried on. Just beyond that point, the path forks. One branch is the walking course, surfaced, marked, the way the children were meant to go. The other is an unmaintained animal track that climbs almost immediately into thick undergrowth. 4 minutes later, at a hound count, the number was wrong. The three girls ahead had assumed she was behind them. She was not. Nobody had passed the adult at the bend coming back. Nobody at the turnaround had seen her arrive. The staff searched the loop themselves first, calling her name, the way anyone would when a child has stepped off a path in the woods. By 12:30, police had arrived. By the end of the first day, there were about 150 personnel on the ground. She has not been seen since.
It is worth being precise about the scale of what followed, because the scale is the reason this case is so strange. In the first week alone, the cumulative deployment ran into the thousands. Prefectural police, the city fire service, local volunteer fire brigades, officials from her home city, and ordinary volunteers. They worked the site sector by sector, then pushed the radius outward for kilometers. Some of it was done in heavy rain. They went into the stream, which is about 10 centimeters deep. They went into the marsh. They searched the bamboo thicket and the dense forest either side of the track. They checked the buildings. They checked the base of a steep earth face tens of meters high on the eastern edge of the campground. They looked inside hollow trees. Then they went back over ground they had already covered. Police cut back the undergrowth so that the same sectors could be searched a second time, properly, with the vegetation out of the way. In 2012, 3 years on, they drained the ponds on the site and examined the beds. They brought in heavy machinery and dug at the foot of the steep ground. In 2016, a national television program brought a search organization from the United States onto the site with dogs trained to detect human remains. The dogs worked the areas the analysis pointed to. Nothing conclusive came back. Over the first 9 years, Gifu Prefectural Police committed roughly 5,600 investigators to this case. In 2018, that was reported alongside a plain and brutal summary. No significant lead. And in all of it, across 17 years, not one physical object belonging to her has ever been recovered. At the time, police assessed abduction by a stranger as unlikely. There were no other guests booked at the campground that day. Nobody recorded a suspicious person. It was broad daylight, and the window was minutes wide. When an investigation of that size returns nothing, something else moves into the empty space. In Japan, this case is very often filed under a single word, kamikakushi, spirited away. It is an old idea that a person can be taken out of the world by something that is not a person, and that the search is therefore beside the point. You will find this case on occult sites. You will find psychics publishing readings of where she is. You will find it ranked in lists of the country's eeriest vanishings, sitting between ghost stories. And you will find something worse than that. Because the supervision arrangements that morning are a matter of public record, 4 10-year-olds walking a section of trail with no adult beside them, the internet has spent 17 years assigning blame. Members of the school staff have been named online repeatedly and accused of things ranging from negligence to concealment. So let us be exact about where the record actually stands. No one has ever been arrested in this case. No one has ever been charged. There has never been a named suspect, and the police have never publicly stated that a crime occurred at all. Japanese Wikipedia carries this case in its list of unsolved disappearances and not in its list of unsolved criminal cases. That distinction is not an accident. The absence of evidence has been filled over and over by people who wanted the story to resolve. It has not resolved.
So here is the way I would put the problem, because I think the usual framing gets it backwards. Most tellings of this case treat the 4-minute window as the central mystery. It is not. That window is short, but as a puzzle it is survivable. A tired child, an unmarked track, thick cover, and a search that starts a few minutes late. That happens. The real problem is the 17 years. It is the total, sustained physical absence of anything. Test each explanation against that rather than against the clock, and they source themselves very quickly. She wandered onto the animal track and became lost in the terrain. Against the clock, this is the strongest reading. It needs no second party at all. Against the absence, it is the weakest. A child on foot with that much head start cannot get beyond the ground that was cut back, re-walked, and worked with dogs. Undergrowth hides a child. It does not hide a child from a decade and a half of repeat searching. She fell into water or off the steep ground. Against the absence, this fails for a simpler reason. Those were the first places anyone looked. The ponds were drained and the beds were examined. She was taken from the site by vehicle. This is the only explanation that accounts economically for finding nothing on the ground, because it removes the need to find anything on the ground. And it is the one police rated least likely on the day's facts. No other guests, no suspicious sightings, daylight. Wildlife. Against the absence, this fails hardest of all. A wildlife event is not tidy. It leaves clothing, disturbed ground, and scent that dogs are specifically trained to follow. Which leaves one uncomfortable possibility standing that is neither dramatic nor satisfying: that the ground itself took the trace. A fissure, an old agricultural or drainage void, a hollow that closed. It is the only accident that explains total absence, and there is no way to test it except to keep digging. Notice what has happened. Every explanation that is easy on the timeline is hard on the evidence, and the one explanation that is easy on the evidence is the one the facts of that morning argue against. That is not a case that has been solved badly. That is a case where every available answer is being held open by the same 17 years of nothing. In July 2017, about 50 people, school staff and Gujo police officers among them, stood at a motorway service area a few minutes from the campground, handing packets of tissues to drivers. Printed on each packet was a description of a 10-year-old girl. They called out to the traffic that they were looking for a child. The following year, they came back with life-size panels and video displays. Her mother said that she continues to live in anxiety and asked people to pay attention and to pass on even the smallest thing they might know. At home, a study desk has been kept exactly as it was left. The appeal page published by Gifu Prefectural Police is still live today. It still carries the height, the weight, the pale blue sleeves, the 2 elastic bands. Gujo Police Station is still taking calls. A girl walked past an adult on a forest path on a clear morning, and 4 minutes later, the world had no more information about her. 17 years of searching has not added a single physical fact to that sentence. What do you think happened in those 4 minutes?